Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's market scan with Mind Money Method. So I've been away for the last 2.5 weeks, sunning it up in the Canary Islands. It's been awesome, and come back, and it's always wonderful to come back after being refreshed and looking at the markets, because one of the worst things you can do is just keep staring at the markets all day long, every day, because you start to go a little bit stir crazy. So not good, and it's really awesome to come back with fresh eyes and to stare. And this is why we at Mind Money Method don't like to stare at the screens all day long, because otherwise it's like literally being in the job. So it's always good to keep yourself fresh and stare at it at set times and do what you have to do, which is everything we teach you through our courses and through the service offerings we've got at Mind Money Method, to really keep yourself fresh and to keep that psychology level as sharp as can be, because that edge of your psychology is what gives you the edge in the market. So in any case, great to be back, and let's do our market scan. So if we look at this week at the dollar index, as we normally do, start with the dollar index, we will see, as usual, well, as it's been in the dollar index on the daily chart, is in an uptrend, and it's still in an uptrend, and we've had a nice pullback into the moving averages over here. Indicators are, a bit flat in terms of the way it is, but it's not complete divergence. However, we certainly are in an uptrend on the daily chart. If we move to the weekly chart, we will see that really where we are, we've been in a strong uptrend, and we've had a pullback, which is always expected. And now what's happened is, technically we went back still up to an uptrend, but we still are technically in an uptrend, but we've reached a level of consolidation, and that's been going on, as you can see, for quite a few weeks. I mean, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 weeks, and potentially where it is a consolidation, that the market still can, I would say, looking to push up to this 10,000 mark. That's the big number, and it looks like the market is still on its way there. The dollar, in terms of it's in consolidation, however, a little push up to the 10,000 is looking more at a higher probability than not. So that's where we are with the dollar index at this point in time. If we go to the let's go have a look at cable next. That's GBP to the US dollar, and we'll see at this chart, we'll see obviously the dollar index has been in an uptrend. However, cable, the British pound, has been very strong against other currencies, and it's been doing really, really well against the euro, against Australian dollar, against most other currencies, Japanese yen. So having that kind of strength against the dollar and the British pound, it's no surprise why we're seeing this sort of consolidation taking place against the two currencies. And if I was, looking at, which I am looking at this chart, but if I was going to take any action, mine action would be to stay out of this particular market, this particular currency pair. I wouldn't be trying to place any trades at this point in time, because if we're placing trades when the market's like this across multiple time frames, at the end of the day, potentially to me, it's more like gambling. I mean, yes, we've been in an uptrend like this, but we've reached a level of consolidation, and I see no entry at all into this market for myself. There are some strategies that you can set up, and that some people do, but for myself, looking at this, it's a market that I would just be looking and keeping my eyes on to see where the next moves are, but it's definitely not a market that I would be entering into. Nothing floats my boat at all in that market. So now we're going to go into a pair more for my South African colleagues that I will hardly really ever speak about, and that's the British pound to the South African rand. And if we go and look at the weekly chart, we'll see here that at a level we had a while that the British pound strengthened for a long time, and then, as you can see, was this level of consolidation taking place. And because of the momentum with the uptrend, the British pound has broken through that resistance level, which you can see right over here. There were quite a few touches. If we have to technically draw it out, you've probably got about, let's just do it for you here. There we go, to kind of give you a better representation. We've got a few touches. You see where price comes up to the resistance level and comes back down. We had multiple time frames in agreement. Highest probability was it was going to break on through and price was then going to potentially come back and then push on. But it has moved on. Now, my highest probability on this currency pair, if we look at the others, is that I'm going to say that this is definitely going to be around in the 20 to even 20 to 22, 23, 24, early 20s, potentially even going up to the 30 Rand mark. So the British pound is to 30 to 1. So, you know, it's definitely looking good for the British pound against the South African Rand, for all those South Africans in the UK sending money back to South Africa. I would say we've broken this resistance level, and I can only see it hovering above definitely the 18 mark and keeping around the 19, 20, early 20s for maybe some time to come. So probably some good news for the South Africans in the UK or in any other countries. But mainly, obviously, we're looking at the British pound to the South African Rand. So that's what we're comparing. And that's what's looking good for those who live in the UK. So if we then move on to the British pound to the Australian dollar, it's another a currency pair that I'm looking at. It's had on the daily chart a lovely trend. I mean, this is the sort of price action I like to see, is this sort of price action. As long as it's in convergence with my indicators, then I'm a happy man. And it gives me potentially the highest probability of where the currency is continuing to go, because that's what we like to base our trades off, is the highest probability where the currency market's going to go based on our technical indicators, so that we're not thumb sucking and gambling in any way, shape or form. So if I look at this on the daily chart, it's had a great uptrend, but it's had a pullback, which is required, and it normally will always have a pullback. It came back a bit further, probably a little bit further than over here. So if it had continued to roll back down, we would have been in a downtrend, but that hasn't happened. It's continued to now push back up. Price may come back down here and then continue on its uptrend. So the British pound to the Australian dollar is still continuing to look very bullish against the Aussie dollar. And for growth, if we go to, say, the weekly chart, if you look over here, potentially there's nothing in the way to even come all the way up to 2.4. So there's quite a quite a good gap in and around this number, but we always look at the big numbers, but I could see it probably going up all the way to 2.2 British pound to Australian dollar. So it's looking quite bullish, British pound to the Australian dollar, and it's definitely a market that I'm looking in potentially on the high time frames or even on the lower time frames, maybe the 4, the 8 hour, to probably over the next few days look at placing a trade into that market. So it's certainly something I'm stalking quite closely for a trade. So if we go to the now the Aussie dollar to the US dollar, we're seeing the opposite, and we're seeing, obviously, because of the dollar index, excuse me, the US dollar being quite strong against most other currencies. We are seeing that, of course, there's Australian dollar weakness. So we're seeing it being weak against the US dollar. And once again, it's come down to an area here. It's had a bit of a pullback. I must admit, this doesn't excite me too much over here. I would have rather seen price keep it small candles in and around here for it to excite me. So, however, the weekly and the monthly charts are still looking very bearish. So it's a very bearish looking chart, and I would probably look as a plan to look at the lower time frames for 8 hour and see if there's any entries there for any bearish, to continue on its bearish trend, on the downward trend. So certainly a market I'm also looking at in terms of placing any trades into. So if we come on to the last one, which is a commodity, and I believe we've been speaking about this over the last few weeks whilst I've been away. We look at this market once again. You can see what's happening with crude oil. It's affecting a lot of parts in the world, obviously lack of demand, and there's certain things driving this forward, but we try not to stay looking at the fundamentals and the demand side of things. We really do, we do listen to that and understand why, but the technicals sometimes, most of the time for me, means more to me than anything else, that's for sure. So if we're looking at these charts, what are we seeing? We're seeing the daily chart on a downtrend over here. Probability is we've had a great pullback into the moving averages. Fantastic. If I had to draw what we call a Fibonacci, it would probably show me what's going on at the fib levels. So and these are things that we explain to you further on in our courses, obviously, to help you with your trades and to make that assessment and to give you the highest probability trade mixed with your technical, your chart, your price structure, and your technical indicators, giving you the highest probability trade. So if I was looking at this, we've got strong downtrend. I mean, but let's see if there's anything in the way. I mean, we probably got a level over here which I will be paying attention to. Is that level over here? So, but if I draw that up over here, look at that. That's still at about the 4736, where price is right now at 5018. So there's still a good percentage of pips to be gone to get to a level of probably a bit of support. So I am keeping my eye on that, but the market is still looking very bearish on crude oil as a commodity. So it's certainly something I would be looking at, and all those people around the world in most countries will probably be seeing their price of petrol going down, which is a good thing, saving some money in that respect. So in any case, thank you. This is another week of Mind Money Method weekly market scan. And once again, folks, all as I can say is, please, we're getting some great sign-ups, and there's some great interest coming on with Mind Money Method, and really enjoying working with the people that we are. But for any of those who are interested, please come to our website, get in touch with us. We do have a free trading course that you're more than welcome to sign up for. It is free. You just got to sign up, give us your name, and we will then, and your email, and we will then send you all the details. And that can be found on our home page at www.mindmoneymethod.com. Anyway, everyone, happy trading and have a fantastic week, and we will speak to you next week. Cheers.